Rosy here, and before we start today, I want to ask you something. And I mean you, the person listening right now. Have you ever recorded your voice in English, played it back, and immediately cringed? Have you ever been mid-sentence and thought, wait, does my accent make me sound less smart, less professional, less enough? If you have, first of all, you are not alone. And second, today's episode is for you, because today we are going to completely dismantle one of the most damaging myths in language learning, the myth that you need to sound American or British or like anyone other than yourself to be taken seriously in English.
I'm Harry, and I just want to say I have believed this myth. I spent 2 years actively trying to erase my accent. 2 years. And today I'll tell you exactly why that was a complete waste of time.
And I'm Nana, and I am still in the middle of this journey. I still catch myself apologizing for how I sound sometimes, so today is personal for me too.
Welcome to the English Nana podcast. Today's episode is called The Truth About Accents, Why You Don't Need to Sound American. And the subtitle in my head is Why You Are Already Enough, Exactly as You Sound Right Now.
We're going to cover the science of why accent matters far less than you think, the real things that actually make people listen to you, and the mindset shifts that will change the way you feel every single time you open your mouth in English.
And we all have different relationships with this topic, different experiences, different breakthroughs, so this is going to feel very real.
Before we dive in, I want you to do something right now, wherever you are. Say this sentence out loud in English. My accent is part of my story. Say it. Don't skip it.
Did you say it? How did it feel? If it felt strange or uncomfortable, that feeling is exactly what we are going to work on today.
And here's your first comment prompt. Tell us in the comments, where are you from and what language did you speak before English? We want to hear from every country, every accent, every background. This podcast belongs to all of you.
Subscribe if you haven't yet. New episodes every single day. And now, let's crack open this myth together. Harry, tell us about those 2 years. Okay, before Harry tells his story, I want to set the scene for this discussion, because one of the things I find fascinating about the accent myth is that almost nobody teaches it to you directly. Nobody sits you down and says, your accent is a problem. Instead, it seeps in quietly through 1,000 small messages, and once we name where it comes from, it starts to lose its power. Harry, where did it start for you?
For me, it started with movies and TV. Every successful character spoke with an American accent. Every intelligent character had either American or British English. And slowly, without anyone telling me directly, I absorbed the message, accent equals intelligence. Accent equals credibility.
Same for me. And my English teacher used to say, try to sound more natural. And what they meant was try to sound more American, as if my natural voice was not natural enough.
And this is where it starts for most learners. Not one big moment, 1,000 small messages from media, from teachers, from apps, from well-meaning people, all subtly pointing in the same direction. The goal is to sound native, and that goal is completely wrong.
Here is the reality. There are 1.5 billion English speakers in the world right now, and non-native speakers outnumber native speakers 3 to 1. 3 to 1, which means the majority of English conversations happening on this planet today are between people who are not native speakers.
So English is already a global language that doesn't belong to one country.
Exactly. English is no longer owned by one culture. It belongs to everyone who speaks it, including you, including every single person listening right now.
And the research backs this up completely. A 2015 study published in Language Learning found that accent strength had no correlation with comprehension when basic clarity was present. In plain English, people understood speakers just as well regardless of how strong their accent was, as long as the words were clear.
So the accent itself doesn't block understanding. It is the clarity of the individual words that matters.
Right, and here is the distinction that changes everything. There is a difference between accent and intelligibility. Your accent is the music of how you speak, the rhythm, the melody, the sounds shaped by where you grew up. Intelligibility is whether people can understand your words. You can have a very strong accent and completely intelligible. Those are two separate things.
And this is the shift that changed everything for me. I stopped asking, do I sound American? I started asking, can people understand me clearly? The moment I made that shift, the anxiety dropped, because suddenly I had a goal I could actually achieve.
Okay, here's something I want you to think about right now. Think about someone you admire who speaks English. A teacher, a speaker, someone on YouTube. Do they have a perfect American accent? Or is it their confidence that draws you to them? Pause and really think about this.
We genuinely want your answer in the comments. The most compelling English speakers you've encountered. What makes them compelling? Because we think you already know the answer, and it is not accent. Okay, this section is the heart of the episode, and I want to be very specific here because I think this is where most accent conversations fall short. They say accent doesn't matter, and then they stop. But we're not stopping there. We're going to tell you what does matter, because that's what actually helps you. So, what are the 3 things that make communication succeed?
Number 1, word stress. This is the biggest factor in whether people understand you, bigger than accent, bigger than grammar mistakes in most cases. English is a stress-timed language, which means every word has one syllable that carries the weight. Present versus present. Record versus record. Get the stress wrong, and native speakers actually cannot process the word, not because of attitude, but because the brain is pattern matching, and the pattern breaks.
Wait, the same letters, the same word, but different stress? And it becomes a completely different word?
Completely different. I want to present you this report versus I want to present you this report. One is correct, one causes a moment of confusion, and it has nothing to do with accent. It's about which syllable carries the weight.
Number 2, rhythm and pacing. Speaking too fast because you are nervous makes you harder to understand, not because of your accent, but because words blur into each other. Native speakers adjust their pace constantly. Slowing down by just 10% immediately improves clarity. Your accent stays exactly the same. Your intelligibility jumps.
I know this spiral so well. When I'm nervous, I speed up, and then I see the other person's face go slightly confused, and I speed up more because I'm nervous, and it just gets worse.
The anxiety spiral. Every English speaker knows it. The fix is counterintuitive. You slow down exactly when everything in you wants to speed up.
Here is a speaking challenge for you right now. Say this sentence. The presentation is scheduled for Thursday afternoon. Say it at your normal speed. Now say it 10% slower. Feel the difference? That is your homework. Slow down by 10% and see what changes in your next real English conversation. Try it right now before we move on.
Pause the episode if you need to. Practice that sentence, then come back. We'll be here.
Number 3, confidence in delivery. And this is the most powerful factor and the least taught. Research is very clear on this. Apologizing for your accent before you speak signals insecurity to the listener, and insecurity, not accent, is what actually makes people disengage. It is not the accent. It is the apology for the accent.
I used to start sentences with, "Sorry for my accent," or "I know my pronunciation isn't perfect," and every time I said that, I was essentially telling the listener, "I don't fully trust what I'm about to say. Please lower your expectations."
I still do this. I say, sorry, my English is not so good. And then the person says, no, your English is great. And I was apologizing for something that was not even a problem.
So here's what I want you to try. Right now, say this out loud. What I have to say matters, and I trust you to hear me. Say it, because that is not arrogance. That is the foundation of confident communication. The message has value, the speaker has value. You start from there.
And here's something beautiful. The most internationally connected people in the world, people who work across cultures every day, are the most comfortable with accents because they have learned that accent tells you something is brave enough to communicate across cultural lines. It's a sign of courage.
Your accent is a sign that you crossed a bridge. You came from one language and you built your way into another. That is remarkable.
Put your hand on your chest if you're somewhere private. Take a breath and say, I am brave enough to speak in a language that is not my first. That is courage. Say it before we move on. And now, one of my favorite parts of every episode. It's Nana's Corner, a dedicated space where Nana brings something personal, something researched, something real from his own week of learning. Nana, this is all yours.
Okay, so this week I did something that genuinely scared me, and I want to tell you about it because I think it will scare you too, and I think you should do it anyway.
What did you do?
I recorded myself speaking English, and then I listened back.
Nana, that is genuinely one of the bravest things a language learner can do.
It was horrible. For the first 30 seconds, I wanted to delete it immediately. My accent sounded so strong to me. My rhythm sounded completely different from what I hear in my head when I speak.
That gap between how you sound in your head and how you actually sound is one of the most disorienting experiences in language learning. It is real and it is extremely common.
But here's what happened after I got past the shock. I could understand myself perfectly. Every word was clear. The message was completely there. The content was actually good. And then I asked my friend, a native English speaker, to listen, and she said she understood everything without any effort at all.
And that is the lesson. The gap between how you sound and how you are understood, that gap is real. Your accent sounds much bigger to you than it does to the listener because you're hearing it critically. They're hearing it communicatively.
So here is my challenge to you, the person listening right now. This week, record 30 seconds of yourself speaking English. Anything. Describe your day. Talk about what you had for breakfast. Say what you're thinking right now. And then listen back. Not to judge, to notice. Notice that you can understand yourself. Notice that the words are clear. Notice that you are doing something remarkable.
And if you want to take it further, send it to a friend who speaks English and ask honestly, "Did you understand me?" The answer will very likely surprise you.
Post about it in the comments if you do this. Tell us what you discovered. Tell us what you noticed. We read every single comment.
Nana, that challenge is genuinely one of the best things we have ever asked our listeners to do. Now, vocabulary pick. What's your word for today?
My pick is intelligibility, because knowing this word completely changed what I was aiming for in my English practice. Rosy, explain it.
Perfect choice. Intelligibility means how easily someone can be understood when they speak. It is separate from accent. Your accent is your sound. Your intelligibility is whether your meaning arrives clearly. You can have a strong accent and perfect intelligibility. You can even have a lighter accent and poor intelligibility if your word stress is consistently wrong. Intelligibility is what you practice. Accent is what you respect.
And here is the empowering part. Intelligibility is improvable with practice. You can work on word stress, on pacing, on clarity of individual sounds. What you cannot and should not need to erase is where you come from.
From today, every time I practice English, I ask, am I intelligible? Not, do I sound American? That one question shift changes everything.
That is Nana's Corner for today, and it was outstanding. And this part of talk is specifically about the mindset, because we can give you every fact about accent research, every statistic about intelligibility, but if the belief is still sitting quietly in the back of your head that your accent makes you lesser, the facts won't stick. The belief changes first. So let's talk about the 3 mindset shifts that actually move the needle.
Mindset shift 1. And I want to name the old belief clearly first because naming it takes away some of its power. The old belief is, my accent is the thing standing between me and being taken seriously. If I could just sound more native, everything would be easier.
I have this belief, present tense. I still feel it sometimes, especially in new situations.
And here is what that belief actually does to you. It puts a glass wall between you and English. You're speaking through it constantly. Part of your brain is monitoring the accent instead of focusing on the message. It creates a split focus that exhausts you and, ironically, makes your English worse, not better, because your attention is in the wrong place.
The reframe I found most useful, and this took me a long time to reach, is thinking about accent as biography, not error. Every accent carries a story. My accent tells anyone who listens that I grew up in one country, learned English as an adult, and built my way into another language. That is not a flaw, that is a biography.
Accent as biography. I've never heard it described that way. It tells people where you came from and what you did to get here, just from the sound of your voice.
Here's a question for you, the person listening. Think of one accent speaking English that you personally find beautiful or interesting. Maybe it's a French accent, a Brazilian accent, a Japanese accent. There's almost certainly one that you find compelling. Think of it right now.
Tell us in the comments, what accent speaking English do you find beautiful or interesting? We're genuinely curious. And notice, you just named an accent that isn't American and you find it beautiful. You already know accents have value. You just haven't applied that knowledge to yourself yet.
I find Scandinavian accented English incredibly musical. There's a melody to it. And nobody says Scandinavian speakers need to sound more American.
Mindset shift 2, the apology habit. We touched on this in section 3, but I want to go deeper because this habit is so automatic for so many learners that it feels polite rather than self-defeating.
When you apologize for your accent before you speak, you are asking the listener to pre-grade your contribution as potentially not good enough. You are lowering the ceiling before you've even started. And in most cases, the listener was going to understand you completely. You are apologizing for a problem that doesn't exist.
I counted this week. I said some version of, sorry, my English isn't that good, 4 times in 4 different conversations, and every single time the other person disagreed with me.
So here's the practice. The next time you feel that apology forming, replace it with a breath, just a breath, and then start speaking. That pause, that breath, that is confidence. The listener will not miss the apology. They will simply hear what you have to say.
Mindset shift 3. Speaking is a skill, not a performance. A performance is judged. A skill is practiced. Every English conversation is practice, not an audition. You are not being graded. You are communicating. And communicating imperfectly is still communicating, which is the whole point.
I have been treating every English conversation like an audition. No wonder I was exhausted. Every single one felt like something I could fail.
When you treat it as practice, mistakes become information, not failures. A mispronounced word is data. An awkward sentence is something to learn from, nothing more. The conversation still happened. The connection was still made. That's what counts. Okay, everyone, Nana's common mistakes time. And I want to explain what this section is about before we start, because the way we do this matters. Nana brings real mistakes, the kind English learners genuinely make, and we work through them one at a time together. Not to embarrass, not to judge, but because understanding why a mistake happens is the fastest way to stop making it. And today's mistakes all connect to this episode's theme in a way I think you're gonna love. Nana, first mistake?
Okay, this week someone asked me what I thought of a film, and I said I think it was very bored.
Ah, the bored versus boring switch.
Let's unpack this. Boring is an adjective that describes the thing. It pushes boredom outward. Bored describes how a person feels. It points inward. The film is boring. You feel bored. The film was very boring, or I was really bored watching it. Two different directions, one toward the thing, one toward the person.
And here's what I love. This connects to today's topic. When we say my accent is embarrassing, we are using it like boring, pointing outward. But the embarrassment is actually ours inside us, not in the accent itself. The accent is just a sound. We are the ones making the judgment.
Nana just connected a grammar lesson to the episode theme in a way I didn't see coming. That is genuinely brilliant.
Okay, mistake number 2, Nana. What happened?
This one is directly about today's topic. Someone asked how I learned English, and I said I practice very hardly.
Hard versus hardly, one of the sneakiest confusions in English. Hardly means almost not at all. I hardly slept means you barely slept. Hard as an adverb means with great effort. So I practiced very hard is what you want, not hardly. Those two words are nearly opposite in meaning.
So I told someone I almost never practice when I meant to say I work really hard.
Essentially, yes, and the correct version, I practiced very hard, is also a beautiful, confident thing to say when someone asks how you learned English. It is honest and it shows effort.
I practiced very hard, and I'm going to say it without apology from now on.
Perfect. Now, mistake number 3, Nana.
This one is pronunciation, perfect for today. I used to say comfortable as 4 full syllables, comfortable.
And the natural pronunciation across all English accents collapses it as comfortable, 3 syllables, comfortable. The middle sounds compress together in connected speech. This is not an accent thing. This is how the word is actually pronounced by native speakers from every English-speaking country.
And this is the important distinction. Some pronunciation work is about clarity and accuracy, not accent imitation. Comfortable is not about sounding American. It's about saying the word the way it is actually constructed in English. That is worth practicing.
Comfortable. Say it with me, everyone. Comfortable. Try it right now, out loud.
Comfortable. That click when a word finally lands right. That feeling is learning.
3 brilliant mistakes, and all 3 connected. Bored versus boring, hard versus hardly, and comfortable. Practice all 3. And listeners, if you have a mistake you've been making that you'd like us to cover, drop it in the comments, and it might appear in a future episode. And now our role play time. And today's scenario is one that I think will feel very close to many of you. Nana has a job interview. His accent comes up, because it often does. And today, we watch how he handles it. Not by apologizing, not by pretending, but by owning it. Harry, you're the interviewer. I'll stay outside and we'll discuss after. Nana, you ready?
Ready.
Great to meet you, Nana. Tell me a little about yourself and your background.
Of course. I grew up speaking a different language at home. You may notice my accent. And I've been working and communicating professionally in English for the past 4 years. I'm most comfortable in business conversations and written communication at this point.
Your English is very clear, actually. Have you worked in international teams before?
Yes. In my previous role, I worked with colleagues from 6 different countries. All of us had different accents and different first languages. And honestly, that made us better communicators. We learned to listen carefully and speak clearly. I think it's one of the strongest things I bring to a team.
That's a really valuable perspective. This role involves presenting to clients. How do you feel about that?
I'll be honest, presenting in English used to make me nervous, but I've learned that what clients respond to is clarity and confidence in the content, not accent. So that's where I put my preparation. And the feedback I've received so far has been positive.
And scene. Rosy, what did you see?
Let's count the techniques. He acknowledged his accent naturally and moved on. No apology, no dwelling. He immediately reframed international background as a professional strength, not a liability. He was honest about nerves, but showed how he manages them. And that last answer, I focus on clarity and confidence, not accent, that is sophisticated, mature, and memorable. A client would trust that.
Saying those things out loud made them feel true, like the practice made the belief real.
That is exactly how mindset shifts work. You practice the new belief until your body believes it too. And now, your turn, the person listening. Pause this episode right now, 60 seconds. Say out loud, tell me about yourself, and answer it. Own your background, own your accent, own your story. 60 seconds. We'll be here when you come back.
Don't skip this. Say it to an empty room if you have to. Your voice deserves to be practiced even when nobody is listening.
Hey everyone, it's Nana, just me and you for a few minutes. I want to tell you something I have never said out loud before. When I first started speaking English in real situations, not in lessons, in real life, I used to do this thing where I mentally rehearsed my accent before I spoke. I would think, okay, make it smoother, make it sound less like where I'm from, and I would hold my breath slightly while speaking, trying to control the sound. And what happened? I sounded more robotic, more stiff, less like me and less like anyone, because I was so focused on how I sounded that I forgot to focus on what I was saying. The moment that changed this, I watched someone speak English with an incredibly strong accent, and they were telling a funny story, completely in it, laughing, pausing at the right moments, making eye contact, and I understood every single word, not because their accent was light, because they were completely present in the meaning. They weren't monitoring the sound, they were living in it. Vocabulary moment. First phrase, mother tongue. The language you learned first, the language that lives in your chest, not just your head. Your mother tongue shaped the music of how you speak. It is not a limitation. It is the foundation everything else is built on. Second phrase, English as a lingua franca. A lingua franca is a shared language between people who don't share a native language. Most English in the world today is used this way. Between a Nigerian doctor and a German patient, neither sounds American. They understand each other completely. You are already part of this global conversation. Third phrase, accent pride. I discovered this term this week. It means recognizing your accent as part of your identity that carries value, not something to minimize or hide. It doesn't mean refusing to improve clarity. It means speaking with the confidence that where you come from is worth hearing. Here is your reflection question. Think about someone who sounds exactly like you in English, another person from your country, your region, your background. When you hear them speak English, does their accent make you think less of them? Or do you think, I understand them completely and I'm glad they're speaking? Apply that same grace to yourself. You deserve the same understanding you extend to others without a second thought. That's it for today's Spotlight. Your voice, exactly as it is worth hearing. Let's go back to the podcast.
Welcome back, and now it's time for quiz. And today's quiz is a little different from usual. We are testing vocabulary and mindset, because today's episode is as much about how you think as what you know. Here's how it works. I ask one question at a time. Before Nana answers, you answer. Pause, think, say your answer out loud right now. Then hear Nana's version, and then we discuss. One at a time, no rushing. Ready?
And answer with your full voice. No mumbling, no apologizing before you start. Just answer.
Ready?
And I am genuinely nervous about the mindset questions because those require honesty, not just knowledge.
Question 1. What is the difference between accent and intelligibility? Pause, think, say your answer out loud right now.
Accent is the music of how you speak, the sounds shaped by your background and your mother tongue. Intelligibility is whether people can understand your words. You can have a very strong accent and still be completely intelligible. They are separate things.
Perfect. Strong accent, high intelligibility, completely possible, and the research confirms it. These two things are not connected the way most learners think.
Question 2. What factor did the research identify as the biggest contributor to whether people understand you, bigger than accent? Pause and think about it.
Word stress. Which syllable carries the weight in a word? Present versus present. If the stress is wrong, the listener's brain cannot process the word, even if every individual sound is correct.
Exactly right. Word stress is the hidden engine of English comprehension. That is what deserves the practice time that most learners spend on accent reduction.
Question 3. This is a mindset question. What actually happens in the listener's experience when you apologize for your accent before you speak? Be honest. Pause and think.
You tell the listener to lower their expectations before you have even started. You split your own focus between the message and the monitoring. And most of the time, the apology was for a problem that did not even exist. The person was going to understand you anyway.
The apology was for a problem that did not exist. I want that on a poster somewhere. That is the whole lesson.
Question 4. Name the 3 things that actually make communication succeed, not accent. The 3 real factors.
Word stress and accurate pronunciation of individual words. Pacing, speaking clearly and slightly slower when needed. And confidence in delivery, being present in the meaning instead of monitoring the sound.
3 for 3. And the third one, confidence in delivery, is the one that is almost never taught because it sounds simple. It is not. It is the hardest one, and it is the most important.
Last question. This one is personal, and there is no wrong answer. After everything we talked about today, what is one thing about your accent that you are going to stop apologizing for? Take your time. Say it out loud before you hear Nana's answer.
I am going to stop apologizing for the rhythm of my sentences, the way my voice goes up and down, the way I pause. That is my mother tongue living inside my English. And after today, I see that as part of my biography, not a problem, part of my story.
Now I want yours. Write it in the comments. I am going to stop apologizing for, and finish the sentence. Say it out loud first, then write it, because saying it publicly makes it real. We are in the final stretch, and I want to do something before we close. I want each of us to name the single thing from today that we are taking into our week, not the whole episode, one thing. Because one thing practiced is worth more than 10 things heard. Harry, you first.
Mine is the phrase accent as biography. 2 years I spent trying to erase something that was actually the most interesting part of my story. Starting this week, I'm treating it that way.
Mine is the recording challenge. I am going to record myself every single day this week. Not to judge, to discover that I am more intelligible than I think.
And mine, and I hope yours too, is this. The next time you feel the urge to apologize for your accent before you speak, take a breath instead and start. Because your voice, exactly as it sounds, carries something worth hearing.
Key concepts from today: intelligibility versus accent, word stress as the engine of comprehension, the 3 real factors: stress, pace, confidence, the apology habit and how to break it, accent as biography, and accent pride.
Key vocabulary: intelligibility, mother tongue, English as a lingua franca, accent pride, word stress, and the most important reframe of the episode: you are not performing, you are communicating. There is no grade, there is only connection.
And your action list for this week. All 3 of these matter. 1. Record 30 seconds of yourself speaking English and listen back with curiosity, not judgment. 2. Practice the word comfortable, comfortable, until it clicks. 3. In the very next English conversation, start speaking without any apology. Just start.
Tell us in the comments which one you did. We check these. We want to hear from you.
And one last thing. If today helped you feel even a little more at peace with your own voice in English, please share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Because somewhere right now there is a person staying silent because they think their accent is not good enough. This episode is for them. Thank you for joining us on the English Nana podcast, and thank you for being brave enough to listen, to speak, and to practice today.
Keep speaking English every single day, with your accent, with your story, with everything you are.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes, because that is how we learn. And don't be afraid of your accent, because that is who you are.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone, and go record that voice memo. Do it today.